I'd like to talk now about some practical things your practice can do to protect yourself and protect your patients. Number one, train staff on your policies, your HIPAA policies, your other office policies. And we talked about with the HIPAA, it should be for new employees generally within a couple of weeks of hire, and for other employees on an annual basis. The second thing you want to do is be vigilant and don't act quickly or hastily. And I mentioned earlier about phishing, these emails where there's a call to action to click on a link. We all aim to please, but there isn't really an emergency here. So don't act quickly. Take a breath, you have time. And if you're not sure, ask a question. Ask it to your privacy officer. Ask us as a consultant, ask a lawyer. But unless it's a medical emergency, you have time, so don't act hastily. I want to talk about passwords. Sounds simple, but there's some things you can do to prevent outside or inside hacks. Number one, give yourself a lengthy password, a combination of letters, numbers, and special characters. It should be about 8 characters long at least. You might even go with a phrase or a song lyric, something that's very memorable. The second thing is never share your password with anybody. Okay, I think of passwords like toothbrushes. You don't want to share them with anybody, and you should change them from time to time. Use encryption in your office. Chances are, you might have encryption within your office, but if you send an email to a customer or a patient, chances are that's not encrypted. So be careful there. Not every communication is encrypted. Know what is and isn't. But where your office can encrypt, work with your IT company, make sure that's installed. The fourth thing you can do is the security assessment, which we talked about earlier. I think this is a very important task. I don't think it's overly complicated. I mentioned earlier we have an easy-to-use template that will help you with an approach. We're happy to walk you through it. It's a really important step. But again, what do you have, where is it, and is it safe? Really, that's the exercise. Another thing you want to do is install antivirus software in your computers. Every software company, Microsoft, etc., they all implement patches because the threats are gaining every day. There's new threats. And if you don't have these patches, you're vulnerable. So keep up with the latest security patches from your hardware or software company. The final thing you want to do is make sure you back up your files. So we keep a lot of information digitally, and that's great. But with respect to privacy and security, it's not just information getting out the door, but it's also about business continuity. So again, dentist offices are different because it's hard to do dentistry remotely. But that being said, if you lose your patient records or your systems can't be up and running, it's very hard to operate your business. So we're not only talking about security and privacy, but business continuity is really important. It's important for all businesses, especially for yours. A lot of the steps I've mentioned here are not only good things to do, but they'll help you in the long run. So for example, in 2021, there was a HIPAA safe harbor law. And what this says is that covered entities like dental practices, doctor's offices, etc., that do certain things will be treated more leniently if there's ever an issue. So for example, if you recognize and implement best practices with respect to cybersecurity. Again, you do the patches, you use encryption, etc. You do the HIPAA risk assessment. You make a good faith attempt to do that assessment each year. You've reduced risks as much as possible to a low and acceptable level. And then finally, you implement technical safeguards to protect patient health information. You will be treated more leniently by the Office of Civil Rights, the local board, and everybody else should there ever be a problem. But I'd say don't worry about that. Do it because it's the right thing to do and it'll protect you and your patients.